This Friday, 10th October, carries a certain silence, a silence that will not come from the world outside, but from the truth rising within you. There is a part of you that has been hurting for a long time, not because of what happened, but because you never allowed yourself to truly look at it. You moved forward pretending it didn't matter, hiding the pain behind strength, behind business, behind smiles that no longer felt real. But this Friday, that part of you will no longer accept silence. It will rise asking you to finally see it clearly, honestly, without fear. The first step toward healing is awareness. To become aware of the wound that has been guiding your choices, your reactions, your silence. You cannot heal what you refuse to see. Pain that is ignored becomes energy that controls you from the shadows. It shapes your relationships, your habits, and even your self-worth. You tell yourself that you have moved on, but your heart knows you haven't. And on the 10th of October, something will stir. A conversation, a memory, a quiet moment that will remind you that there is something unresolved inside you, still asking to be seen. Awareness is not about analyzing or judging what happened. It is not about blame or regret. It is about seeing with honesty. To simply sit and observe what you feel without running from it. This is the moment the healing begins. Not when everything becomes better, but when you stop pretending that it already is. When you can look at your own pain without trying to fix it immediately, you create space. And in that space, something powerful starts to shift. This Friday, let that awareness come gently. Don't fight it. Don't force yourself to be strong. Strength is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to stay present with it. Feel the tightness in your chest. Feel the heaviness behind your eyes. Feel the memories that rise up without warning. They are not here to destroy you. They are here to show you what has been left unhealed. This is not punishment. It is guidance. Every wound has a voice, and it speaks through the patterns of your life. It whispers in your hesitation to trust. It hides in your fear of being hurt again. It shapes how deeply you allow yourself to love, how loudly you allow yourself to speak, how much you allow yourself to grow. This Friday, 10th of October, is not just another day. It is an invitation to meet that voice within you, the one you've been avoiding, to hear it not with judgment, but with understanding. You see, pain is a teacher that waits patiently. It doesn't leave until its message is received. You can try to bury it under distractions, achievements, or false positivity, but it will remain quietly shaping your world from the background. Awareness means finally turning toward that voice and saying, I see you. That single act of acknowledgement can change everything, because what you see clearly no longer controls you unconsciously. This Friday, allow yourself to slow down. Don't rush to numb the feelings. Don't escape into noise. Sit with yourself, even if it feels uncomfortable. The discomfort is not a sign of weakness. It's the body's way of signaling that healing is near. When awareness deepens, so does your connection to life itself. You begin to notice how much energy you've been spending avoiding yourself. You begin to realize how heavy it was to carry what you never faced. There is something sacred about awareness. It is the bridge between pain and peace. It transforms confusion into clarity. The more you allow yourself to observe what hurts, the more you begin to understand that pain was never your enemy. It was your guide, trying to bring you back to the parts of yourself you abandoned. This Friday, 10th of October, is the time to stop running. Stop running from the past, from the memories, from the feelings you fear will break you. They will not. They are already inside you. Facing them only frees you from their control. This day asks you to open your eyes, not just the eyes on your face, but the ones within your heart. To look honestly at the patterns that repeat, the choices that wound you, the beliefs that keep you small. That is where awareness begins to heal. Awareness doesn't erase the pain, but it softens its hold. It turns the wound into wisdom. When you become aware of what's truly hurting, you stop projecting it outward. You stop blaming life, others, or fate. you begin to see that the healing has always been your responsibility and your power. The moment you recognize that truth, the energy of the wound begins to dissolve. This Friday will be quiet, but powerful. Somewhere in that quiet, you will feel something shift, a realization, a softness, a surrender. It might not come with words, but you'll feel it, like a door opening inside your chest. That door leads to freedom, but to enter, you must first pass through awareness. Awareness of the pain, of the story, of the self you left behind. The part of you that has been hurting is not weak, it's simply been waiting for you to turn inward, to listen, to understand. This Friday, let that be your act of healing. Don't try to change anything. Just see it. See what has been unseen for so long. Because once you see the truth, it can no longer hide behind illusion. Once you see yourself clearly, the pain loses its power. This Friday, 10th of October, is not about doing more. It's about feeling more, feeling honestly, seeing truthfully, living consciously. Awareness is the beginning of every transformation. It is the light that enters the wound and shows you that healing was never outside you. It was always within. This Friday, 10th October, will ask something from you that many people spend a lifetime avoiding: the courage to sit with your own pain. Not to run from it, not to cover it with distractions, not to pretend it isn't there, but to sit, to breathe, and to allow it to speak. This day will not come to test your strength, it will come to reveal it, because real strength is not in how well you hide your wounds, but in how deeply you can face them without turning away. Pain has its own presence. It doesn't vanish just because you deny it. It stays, it echoes, it waits. Sometimes it shows up as anger, sometimes as silence, sometimes as the weight in your chest when everything else seems fine. You've carried it for so long that it became part of you, like a shadow you stopped noticing. But this Friday will bring clarity. Something inside will whisper, stop running, just stop, sit here, feel this. And that moment will be the start of your transformation. When you sit with pain, you stop feeding it resistance. You stop giving it the power that comes from avoidance. Every time you turn away from what hurts, you strengthen its hold. But when you stay still, when you breathe into it, when you allow yourself to feel without judgment, the pain begins to lose its grip. That is the truth that this Friday, 10th October, wants to teach you. That courage is not about control, it is about surrender. It takes courage to remain still when the heart trembles, to sit in silence when the mind wants to escape, to feel the ache of memories and not distract yourself with noise. But it is in that very stillness that healing begins to unfold, because in that stillness you are no longer running. You are finally meeting yourself, not the version you show the world, but the raw, unfiltered self that has been hidden behind the armor. This Friday, let the silence guide you. You do not need to force healing. You do not need to demand answers. Just sit, close your eyes and breathe. Feel where the pain lives in your body. The tightness in the chest, the tension in the jaw, the heaviness in the stomach. These are not your enemies. They are messages. They are the body's way of saying, I have carried this for too long. To sit with it is to listen. To breathe with it is to respect it. And you are not the body. There will be moments when you want to escape, when you want to distract yourself, when you want to rush into comfort. But this Friday asks you to be still, even if your body trembles, even if your mind screams to move. Because that moment of stillness is where your power is reclaimed. The wound can only heal when it is no longer avoided. Sitting with pain means you finally trust yourself enough to face what you once feared. In this stillness, you begin to see that pain is not a wall, it's a doorway. It does not come to destroy you, it comes to deepen you. It strips away everything that is false, everything that was built only to protect your fear. What remains after that is truth, raw, real, liberating. That is what this Friday, 10th October, brings. A doorway to truth, a chance to stop fighting and start understanding. When you allow yourself to feel what hurts, you transform the energy of suffering into awareness. Awareness then becomes wisdom, and wisdom becomes freedom. It all begins when you stop running. Most people never heal because they keep searching for ways to avoid discomfort. But healing cannot be found in avoidance. It is found in presence, in staying, in breathing through the fire until the fire no longer burns but warms. This Friday will be that fire, a gentle one, the kind that purifies, not destroys, the kind that burns away illusion, not identity. As you sit with your pain, you will notice how much energy you've spent trying to escape it. You will see that the fear of feeling was always greater than the feeling itself. Once you realize that, something shifts, the heart softens, the breath deepens, the body releases. The pain begins to move, and movement is the beginning of freedom. This courage to sit with the wound will change how you live. You will no longer fear sadness because you have learned how to be with it. You will no longer run from loneliness because you have learned how to breathe within it. You will no longer hide your vulnerability because you understand that it is not weakness. It is your bridge to truth. That is the quiet power that tender October will awaken in you. Do not rush it. Healing never rushes. It unfolds in silence, in patience, in honesty. Just sit with yourself and let the moment be enough. The pain will not last forever. It is only here to show you what needs your attention, your love, your forgiveness. When you face it, it changes. And when it changes, you change. This Friday, 10th October, is your invitation to be brave in a new way, not through control, but through surrender. Sit with your pain as you would sit with a friend who is crying. Listen without trying to fix. Feel without trying to escape. Accept without needing to understand everything. This is how you turn suffering into strength. This is how you make peace with what has already happened and open space for what is yet to come. When the day ends, you will not be the same. You will feel lighter, softer, more awake, not because the pain disappeared, but because you finally stopped fighting it. Because you allowed it to exist without resistance, and in doing so, you took away its power to define you. That is the quiet miracle that this Friday holds. The healing begins not in movement, but in stillness. Not in avoidance, but in acceptance. And when you can sit with your pain, you will realize that what once broke you has become the ground where your strength is reborn. This Friday, 10th of October, will be a day of release. The day when life quietly reminds you that holding on too tightly to what no longer serves you only keeps you trapped in places you've already outgrown. You have carried memories, disappointments, regrets, and people for far too long. The time has come to let them go, not in anger, not in bitterness, but in peace. This Friday is not about loss, it is about liberation. There are things inside you that have reached their end, but because you fear change, you keep them alive through attachment. You replay old moments, you cling to old emotions, you repeat old stories, all because a part of you still hopes that something different could have happened. But nothing new can begin until you make space for it. This Friday will show you that healing does not come from adding more, but from releasing what weighs you down. Letting go is not weakness, it is strength of the highest kind. It means choosing peace over control. It means trusting the flow of life even when you don't understand it. You see, pain remains not because of what happened, but because of your refusal to release it. The mind holds on to protect itself, but in doing so, it keeps the wound open. This Friday, 10th of October, will teach you that the wound closes when you stop touching it, when you stop feeding it energy through your thoughts. Releasing is not forgetting. It is accepting. It is saying, yes, it happened. Yes, it hurt, but it no longer defines me. Every time you release something that no longer serves you, you reclaim a part of your own energy. You take back the strength that was tied to the past. You stop living in reaction and start living in presence. This Friday, sit quietly for a while. Feel the things you've been carrying, the grudges, the guilt, the expectations that never became reality. Feel them not as thoughts, but as weight in your body. you'll notice how heavy they have become. You'll see how they've slowed you down, how they've drained your clarity. And when you see that, you'll understand that release is not optional. It is necessary if you want to live fully. Letting go doesn't always happen in a single moment. Sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it begins with a sigh, a single breath where you say, I'm done fighting this. Sometimes it comes with tears, with silence, with stillness. But every time you release something, even a little, you create space inside, space for peace, space for light, space for yourself. This is what this Friday, 10 October, is offering you, the chance to empty what has been overflowing for too long. So many people are afraid to release because they believe letting go means losing. But you are not losing anything real when you release what hurts you. You are losing only the illusion of control, the attachment to something that was never meant to stay. What is meant for you will never require you to hold on so tightly. It will flow naturally. It will bring calm, not chaos. This Friday, learn the difference. Letting go also means forgiving, not necessarily for others, but for yourself. For the times you stayed too long, for the times you believed too deeply, for the times you expected more than was ever possible. Forgiveness is a form of release. It unties the knots around your heart. It frees your energy to be used for growth, not for pain. This Friday, give yourself permission to forgive, even if you never received an apology. Because forgiveness is not about them. It is about you finally choosing to stop suffering. There will be a lightness that follows release. You might not feel it immediately, but it will come. The more you release, the clearer your mind becomes. The clearer your mind becomes, the more peaceful your heart feels. And in that peace, life starts to flow again. You begin to see opportunities where before you saw only endings. You begin to feel strength where before you felt loss. This Friday, 10 October, is a symbolic threshold. You can cross it with the same old burdens, or you can step through it free. You decide. But remember, this healing cannot exist in a heart that refuses to let go. The universe cannot fill hands that are already full. To receive new blessings, you must first release what is old, what is stale, what no longer reflects who you are becoming. Sometimes release means walking away. Sometimes it means silence. Sometimes it simply means accepting that something once beautiful has finished its purpose. And that is enough. You don't need closure from anyone else. You don't need the perfect ending. The release itself is the closure. This Friday will whisper that truth to you, that peace does not come from holding on, but from surrendering with grace. Life has its seasons. The trees do not fight when their leaves fall. They let go, knowing that new ones will grow in time. You, too, must learn to let things fall away. The pain, the doubt, the people, the memories, let them go. Because what is meant to stay will never leave, and what is meant to leave will never stay no matter how tightly you hold. This Friday, let your release be your healing. Let your surrender be your strength. When you let go, you don't fall, you rise. You rise into clarity, into freedom, into truth. The energy that was trapped in your pain becomes the energy that propels you forward. You will realize that every ending was a quiet beginning in disguise. And all along, life was waiting for you to open your hands. So when 10th October arrives, take a deep breath, feel the weight, and then let it drop. Leave behind what is heavy, what is done, what no longer reflects your growth. You owe it to yourself to travel light into what comes next. The peace you are looking for is not hidden somewhere far away. It begins the moment you stop holding on. It begins the moment you finally allow yourself to release. This Friday, 10 October, will be about returning home, not to a place, but to yourself. For too long, you have been disconnected from your own center, living on the surface of life, responding to the noise around you instead of the truth within you. You have been chasing validation, chasing understanding, chasing peace outside of yourself, forgetting that everything you seek is already within. This Friday will come as a quiet reminder. It is time to reconnect with who you truly are. The world has taught you to look outward, to measure yourself through others, to believe that worth comes from success, approval, or recognition. But in doing so, you drifted away from the voice inside, the one that knows your truth even when you pretend not to hear it. This Friday, 10th October, invites you to stop searching outside and turn inward. Because healing is not about finding something new. It is about remembering what you forgot about yourself. When you reconnect with the self, you begin to see how far you have wandered. You notice how often you have abandoned your own needs just to keep others comfortable. You realize how many of your choices were made not from clarity, but from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being alone, fear of being misunderstood. But this Friday is not about fear. It is about alignment. It is about standing in your truth even when the world around you does not understand it. There is a quiet power that comes from reconnection. It is not loud or dramatic. It is steady. It is calm. It is the kind of peace that doesn't need to be proven. When you are connected to yourself, you no longer chase love. You become love. You no longer beg for peace, you embody it. This Friday, 10 October, will remind you of that inner stillness. It will show you that your value does not come from what you achieve, but from who you are when you are fully present with yourself. Reconnecting with the self begins with honesty. To look at your life and ask, is this truly me? Not the version of you shaped by expectations, not the version built to please others, but the one that feels real when you are alone in silence. It requires courage to face that truth because once you see it, you can no longer pretend. You can no longer keep living disconnected from your essence. This Friday will be that mirror, clear, direct, and unafraid to show you where you've been avoiding your own reflection. When you return to yourself, you also return to your strength. The same strength that was always there but buried under layers of noise, pain, and self-doubt. You start hearing your intuition again. You start trusting your heart more than your fears. You start recognizing that peace is not something that happens when everything around you calms down. It happens when you calm down inside. This Friday, allow yourself to be still enough to listen. The self doesn't speak through chaos, it speaks through silence. When you sit in quiet awareness, when you breathe deeply and stop trying to control everything, you begin to hear the whispers that guide you back. Those whispers tell you what feels right, what no longer fits, what your next step should be. The mind will resist it because the mind thrives on control, but the heart knows. And this Friday, 10th October, will be about trusting that knowing again. Reconnection also means forgiveness. You must forgive yourself for all the times you disconnected, for all the times you silenced your own needs just to fit in, for all the times you doubted your own voice and followed paths that led you further from who you are. Forgiveness softens the walls you built around your truth. It allows light to enter again. That light is awareness. That light is healing. When you are connected to your true self, you stop chasing temporary things. You stop needing constant validation. You no longer measure yourself by how others see you. You begin to move differently, slower, calmer, with purpose. You realize that what you were looking for in others was never missing. It was only misplaced. This Friday will remind you that you were never broken, just disconnected. And when you reconnect, everything begins to make sense again. The journey back to yourself will not be about perfection. It will be about presence, being here, now, without trying to be somewhere else, feeling what you feel without resistance, speaking your truth without apology. This is what 10th October wants from you. Presence, not performance. Authenticity, not approval. You will notice that as you reconnect with yourself, certain things will naturally fall away. People, habits, distractions. Don't resist that. It is not loss, it is alignment. Life always removes what doesn't belong when you begin to stand in your truth. The old version of you that lived for others cannot survive when you start living for your own peace. This is how transformation begins, not by adding more, but by returning to simplicity. This Friday, 10th October, will feel like breathing after holding your breath for too long. You will feel a quiet clarity rise inside you, a sense of coming home. That is the essence of healing. To come home to yourself after being lost in the noise of the world. It is not dramatic, but it is powerful. Because once you are connected to your true self, no external storm can shake you again. The mind may still bring fear, but the heart will stay steady. The world may still bring noise, but your inner silence will remain strong. That is the power of reconnection. It anchors you to something deeper than circumstance. It makes you unshakable from within. This Friday will not heal you by changing the world outside. It will heal you by helping you remember who you are inside. That remembrance is everything. It is the end of pretending, the end of chasing, the end of living halfway. You will begin to see yourself clearly, love yourself deeply, and live yourself fully. And when that happens, you will realize that coming home to yourself was never the destination. It was the healing all along. This Friday, 10th October, will remind you that transformation does not always happen in chaos. It often begins in silence. The world teaches you to chase movement, to chase noise, to chase the visible signs of change. But the truth is, real transformation happens quietly. In the stillness you've been avoiding, in the pauses you think are wasted. This Friday will teach you that stillness is not the absence of progress. It is the space where progress begins to breathe. You have been taught to believe that growth means doing more, achieving more, becoming more. But growth also means stopping. It means sitting in stillness long enough to hear what your soul has been trying to tell you. It means letting the silence heal what noise has kept broken. This Friday, 10th October, will bring that opportunity. A moment to stop running, to stop forcing, and to simply listen. Stillness is uncomfortable because it exposes what distraction hides. When you slow down, the mind begins to speak. It brings up memories, emotions, fears, everything you've buried under movement. But that is exactly why stillness is powerful. It shows you what is real. It removes the illusion of control. It strips away what is false so that what's true can finally breathe. This Friday, let the stillness confront you. Do not fight it. Let it teach you that silence has a language of its own. When you learn to sit in stillness, you begin to see how restless you have become. You notice how addicted you are to noise, to constant stimulation, to distraction. The mind fears stillness because stillness reveals truth, and truth demands change. But if you stay with it, if you keep breathing through the discomfort, something beautiful begins to unfold. You begin to see yourself more clearly. You begin to understand that the peace you've been chasing was never lost. It was simply buried beneath the noise of life. This Friday, 10th October, will ask you to stop searching outside, to stop believing that healing is something that must be found in another place, another person, another time. Everything you need to grow is already within you, but you can only see it when you are still. Just as water becomes clear when it stops moving, your mind becomes clear when you rest in silence. And when the mind is clear, truth surfaces effortlessly. Transformation through stillness is not dramatic. It is not something the world applauds or notices. It is quiet, subtle, but deeply powerful. It happens when you breathe deeply instead of reacting, when you pause instead of rushing, when you observe instead of judging. These small acts of awareness change your energy, and your energy changes your life. This Friday is the day to practice that awareness, to step back, to watch, to listen, to allow. In stillness, the heart begins to heal. It releases what the mind keeps holding. It softens around old pain. It forgives without being asked. It returns to its natural rhythm, calm, steady, alive. The heart knows that healing does not come from force. It comes from surrender. And surrender can only happen when you stop running. That is why this Friday, 10th October, will be a quiet turning point, a day where stillness becomes your strength, You do not need to chase transformation. You need to create the space for it to arise naturally. When you are still, the body relaxes, the mind clears, and the soul speaks. That is the moment when growth begins. Not in chaos, not in pressure, but in presence. You begin to see that every answer you were seeking already existed inside you, waiting for you to slow down long enough to hear it. This Friday will be your chance to trust the silence, to stop filling every moment with noise, to sit alone without the need to escape. In that space, something profound will happen. The layers of stress, fear, and confusion will begin to peel away. What remains is clarity. What remains is peace. And from that peace, transformation flows naturally, not as a struggle, but as a becoming. Stillness is not inaction. It is deep action that the surface cannot see. It is where intention takes root, where awareness expands, where the soul grows strong. When you sit quietly, you are not wasting time. You are aligning with life. You are allowing the universe to move through you instead of trying to control its flow. This Friday, 10th October, will remind you that when you stop pushing, life starts aligning. You will notice that everything begins to make sense in stillness. The confusion that once felt unbearable begins to dissolve. The emotions that once felt overwhelming begin to soften. The past loses its grip, the future stops demanding attention, and the present moment becomes enough. That is the gift of stillness. It brings you back to now, where healing actually lives. This Friday, you will understand that stillness is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is the highest form of strength, the ability to remain grounded while the world moves around you. It is the discipline to choose presence over panic, calm over chaos, truth over reaction. When you master stillness, you master yourself. Transformation is not always about doing. Sometimes it is about being. About being still, being aware, being open. That is how the heart grows. That is how the soul expands. When you stop chasing change, you become change. When you stop fighting the moment begins to heal you. This Friday, 10th October, let stillness be your teacher. Sit in the quiet, breathe deeply, and let life unfold without interference. Watch how peace returns. Watch how clarity rises. Watch how transformation begins without effort. The stillness will not ask you to do more. It will ask you to become more aware. And in that awareness, everything will shift. At the end of the day, you will realize that the most powerful movement was the one that happened in silence. The movement within you. The shift from chaos to calm, from confusion to clarity, from seeking to simply being. That is transformation through stillness. That is what this Friday, 10th October, was always meant to awaken in you. This Friday, 10th October, will be the day you remember that healing is not about returning to who once were. It is about becoming someone stronger, wiser, and more awake. Life will not give you back the person you were before the pain. It will shape you into someone who carries peace inside even after the storm. This Friday will show you that every struggle, every wound, every fall was never a punishment. It was preparation. You have spent time wishing things could go back to the way they were. You've imagined how life would look if certain things had not happened, if certain people had stayed, if certain moments had turned out differently. But this Friday, 10th October, will bring a different understanding. That healing is not a return, it is a rebirth. You are not meant to go back. You are meant to rise. Pain changes you. It opens parts of you that comfort never could. It strips away illusions, it removes masks, and it forces you to meet your true self. The part that survives, the part that adapts, the part that still stands even after breaking. This Friday, that truth will stand before you clearly, that the person you are becoming is far stronger than the one you were before life tested you. There is a strength that only suffering can teach, not the kind that looks powerful on the outside, but the kind that lives quietly within. The strength to stay calm when everything shakes, the strength to choose peace when chaos calls, the strength to forgive when anger would be easier. This Friday, 10th October, is about that strength, the kind that grows silently while the world watches only the noise. Every time you fell, something inside you learned to rise. Every time you lost, something inside you learned what truly matters. The pain refined you, it didn't destroy you. It burned away what was weak, what was false, what was temporary. It left behind what is unbreakable. And now this Friday will remind you, you are not the same person who once feared the pain. You have already grown beyond it. Healing does not mean that everything is perfect. It means you have found peace in the imperfection. It means you can look at your scars and feel gratitude instead of shame. Because every scar is proof that you kept going, that you didn't give up when it would have been easier to fall apart. This Friday will be your mirror, showing you not what you lost, but what you gained from the fall. When you look back, you will realize that the pain taught you what comfort never could. It taught you patience. It taught you awareness. It taught you humility. It made you softer where you were once hard, wiser where you were once blind, quieter where you were once restless. That is real healing, not returning to who you were, but evolving into who you are meant to be. This Friday, 10th of October, will be that awakening. Rebirth is not always beautiful. It happens in silence, in darkness, in moments when no one sees your struggle. But every seed grows in darkness before it touches the light. The same is true for you. The pain was the soil, the strength is the bloom. This Friday will remind you that you are not broken, you are in bloom. You have been growing roots when it felt like you were falling apart, and now it is time to rise. You will begin to see that life never took anything from you that was meant to stay. It only removed what was blocking your growth. The people who left, the situations that ended, the moments that broke you. They all cleared space for what was coming next. Sometimes it takes losing everything you thought you needed to discover what you truly are. This Friday, 10th October, will whisper that truth back into your heart. The person you are becoming is not fragile. They are not afraid of change. They no longer seek to avoid pain. They understand its purpose. You will begin to carry peace not because life is easy, but because you have stopped fighting what is. That is the strength that is born through healing. That is the calm that cannot be shaken by the outside world. On this Friday, take a moment to look at how far you've come. You survived nights that once felt endless. You carried yourself through storms that could have broken you. And yet you stand wiser, quieter, and clearer. That is not a small thing. That is transformation. That is the rebirth of your inner strength. You have learned how to bend without breaking, how to fall without losing faith, how to trust even when you don't understand. That is the mark of growth. Healing changes the way you see everything. It teaches you that endings are not final. They are beginnings wearing different clothes. It teaches you that pain was never the enemy. Resistance was. It teaches you that peace does not come from control, but from surrender. And it teaches you that strength is not something you find, it is something you remember. This Friday, 10th October, will be the reminder you've been waiting for. From this point onward, you will not wish to go back. You will understand that you cannot return to what was because you have already become more than that. You will thank the pain for what it taught you, not because it was pleasant, but because it made you real. You will feel proud of the quiet strength that now lives inside you. A strength built not from victories, but from survival. This Friday is not the end of your healing. It is the beginning of your becoming. A new chapter where the heart that once broke becomes the same heart that guides you with wisdom. Where the pain that once silenced you becomes the reason you speak your truth. Where the fear that once held you back becomes the reminder of how far you've come. On this 10th October, breathe deeply and feel that shift. You are no longer who you were. You are who you have become through the fire, through the silence, through the stillness. You are the living proof that pain can shape beauty, that endings can give birth to beginnings, that healing can lead to power. This Friday will not just heal you, it will reveal you, the new you, the truer you, the one who no longer breaks but builds.